Hello and welcome to this edition of the Sports Circus. We are here at fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada at the Gene Woods Racing Experience, WCOBM. Tomorrow you can catch the Sports Circus on Fox Sports Radio 1340 here in Las Vegas, or you can stream it live at thesportcircus.com. Today's show is brought to you by the American Business Trust Company. They specialize in helping companies with business planning and strategy and raising investment capital, marketing, and sales. Visit them at abtrustco, abtrustco.com, or call them at 657-600-1876 to address your business needs today. Also, this show is sponsored in part by Landmark Homes and Land Company. You can reach them at 800-830-9788. Ask for Steve. This company designs and manufactures panelized homes. They do it apparently all over the world. They're doing a really good job. Ask for Steve. Great guy. 800-830-9788. So, I'm here with a special guest today for the Sports Circus. I'm here with a local businessman, power player in the real estate business. His name is Larry. Larry, tell him about your company.
Well, basically what I have property in 14 states, and I actually do a lot of trading, which is originally I wanted to be a general manager for a ball team. Mm-hmm. So it evolved into owning commercial properties such as mobile home parks, extended stay motels, and a lot of houses around the country and land. Mm-hmm. And that's basically it.
Yeah. What kind of trading? What do you mean trading?
You know, if anybody knows it's IRS code 1031, and basically what it is allows people to trade property one for another, to which the purpose is, it's basically for a tax instead of having a taxable income. Mm-hmm. The primary purpose is to defer taxes. Mm-hmm. and to trade properties for the purpose of building them up for future profit.
Sort of like a simultaneous like-kind exchange without paying the tax penalty to your favorite uncle?
That's it.
That's what you're after? Okay. All right, well, we'll get to that in another segment. Anyway, this is the Sports Circus. We're here to talk about anything sports, and we will talk about barefooted ice hockey, underwater badminton, cannonball bowling, you name it, that's what we do. But today, we're going to talk a little bit more about the NCAA basketball. I've been waiting to talk about the basketball now that we're getting into conference play. Now it's relevant. The preseason, prior to all the conference play, a lot of the games, they're overhyped or they're basically undervalued. Now is when the games really count. They get into conference play, and the coaches and players, this is where the animosity between the schools, they really tend to show up on the court, and we've seen a little bit of that, which we'll get to that in a second here. But first, we're gonna welcome back Grayson Allen back to the Duke University basketball team, and happy to have Grayson back on the court after his one-game suspension. I would say he probably deserved a little bit more than one-game suspension, probably 5-game suspension. The only problem is Coach K is going in for back surgery, and the assistant coach that's coming in, he certainly couldn't bring him back into the game, or back into the games, if you will, and then have to somehow manage his personality when he hasn't been his primary go-to guy. Coach K has been the guy, but the one thing now Coach K is going to be gone for about maybe 5 weeks, thereabouts. And the one thing I do like is Coach K did strip him of his captaincy. Now, Matt Jones and Emil Jefferson are the only ones with the captaincy. How do you feel about that, Larry?
He deserved a greater suspension, very simply. And
tell everybody at home.
He deserved, as I said, he deserved a greater suspension. The idea is he actually undermined the productivity of that team. And until, in essence, he knows he's probably only going to be there for a year, so he doesn't care. But in my opinion, he doesn't care. But it's Coach K's team, and if you're going to be on that team, you follow what he says. And if you're not going to do that, he's going to suspend you. And that's
why do you think he's only going to be there for a year?
Because as you know, most of these kids, especially kids that go to Duke or Kentucky or Louisville or programs like that, a very high percentage of them leave after a year because because of the NBA rules.
But Grayson Allen's been around for a couple of years. He's not a one and done player.
Yeah,
this is a kid that's going to stay the full 4 years, more than likely.
Well, and we disagree.
We disagree. And you know what? He can do that. That's okay. I'm a Duke guy, so it's okay. They got my money. But I'll tell you what, they're still ranked number 8, and they're still the odds-on favorite to win the NCAA championship. They're at 15-4. I do like that, and they're ahead of Kentucky. And UCLA has been playing very, very well. With the exception of a hiccup here or there, UCLA has been playing very well. And I think UCLA in the number 3 slot as far as the odds go, I think that's a really good spot for them, Kentucky being second. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I do too. However, I think if Duke and UCLA played in a regional or Final Four, however it's determined, I think Duke would beat them I think Duke would beat them well.
Why?
I think Duke's, number 1, their discipline. Number 2, their coaching. And number 3, I think they have greater talent.
Well, they certainly have the best recruiting in the country. They get the top players from everywhere in the country, and it's because they basically have the best coach in the basketball world. You know, if Coach K can handle the Olympic talent to gold medal, he wins national championships. The NBA wants him in the worst possible way. He'd be a huge draw just by himself because they know he develops talent. The problem is he likes it where he's at, and that's really not a problem for him, but it's a problem for the NBA because he will not go to the NBA. You know, Rick Pitino tried that one, and we saw what happened there. You know, that's a whole nother story.
Well, let me throw one thing at that. You know, I was around to watch John Wooden for years, and Coach K is the closest coach I have ever seen to Wooden.
Right, John Wooden probably being the best historic coach in college basketball, and Coach K being directly behind him. I mean, John Wooden, championship after championship, on and on and on. This guy was the consummate pro. And of course, Coach K, you know, he played for Bobby Knight, and he learned from Bobby Knight. And Bobby Knight, I think I would put him in the 3rd place of college coaches because Bobby Knight was really that good. And he got a bad rap for a lot of the things that had happened on and off the court, but Bobby Knight was very good. And let's stick with the coaching theme, and let's talk about what happened with Clemson's Brad Brownwell when they were shaking hands at the end with Roy Williams after the Clemson-Carolina game. What happened there?
I don't know. The comment I would make is that that coach, the Clemson coach, was out of line. You know,
why was he out of line? Don't you think that Kennedy Meeks was out of line for taunting the Clemson bench and the players and being very unprofessional? He hit a game-winning shot, but he didn't know it just yet. But he knew it was a dagger. I don't really think he was. I don't know if Brad Bromwell was out of line. I think Roy Williams' player was out of line, and Roy Williams is out of line for not keeping those kids with the right frame of mind on and off the court. Roy Williams has a problem with this. This goes back to Kansas.
He does, but let me throw something at you. The game was over. Period.
Correct.
It's over. So you know it's over. You're not going to change the outcome. So tell me how does it help to basically get into a shouting match after the game's over? Tell me, how does that help?
I don't think it was a shouting match, and I'll tell you what I thought it was. I thought this was a play on national TV, so Clemson could get the attention of all of those other people, all those other coaches and players and all the fans for the ACC to let them know we're not going to get pushed around. You're not going to do it to us.
Game's over.
The game is over, but remember, the game lives on after the game because that's what fans are. Fans are fanatics, and they live in the past and the present, of course, with the current games. So moving on.
But that's one final thing. That's a media thing. That's the kind of stuff the media likes to keep promoting and keep incensing. You know, but the idea is these guys.
We are the media.
All right.
We have to talk about it. We're the media.
Yeah, I feel. Let me say it this way. You know, we didn't really. You know, you only see what the cameras want you to see. So we don't know the whole thing. We don't know what precipitated all this.
We don't have to know. We know what we saw on television, and what we saw was we saw a very confrontational exchange, and it's about time somebody puts Roy Williams back in his place, because that's what they do at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, and they call them the Chapel Hillbillies. So that's what happens over there, and good for Clemson, and I think it's good for the rest of the nation to see Roy get put back in his place. That's where he belongs. He's a crybaby.
Now I got a question. Is this coming from a Duke alumni?
You damn right it is. I have zero love for Carolina, but I can give them props for their play on the court. But for their antics on the court and for their antics off the court, I absolutely do not endorse that whatsoever. So let's move on. We have to move on, because we can go on this one for 5 hours. We can't do this one. I want to make sure that we cover the Villanova loss to Butler, and let's talk a little bit about the value of both of these clubs. Now, Villanova being ranked number one, they're a quality club. Mm-hmm. But Butler is a really good club. And a lot of people seem to forget that Butler migrated over to the Big East. They were in a different conference. They were in the, what the heck was it? They were in with Wayne State, Loyola Chicago, and Wright State, and all of those schools in there, and Northern Iowa, in fact. It escapes me right now, but Butler so far this year has beaten Arizona, Indiana, Cincinnati, and Villanova. Mm-hmm. Something tells me this is a pretty good club.
Yeah, and they're gaining confidence.
They're gaining a lot of confidence, and they're doing it without. Remember, they lost their coach, right? So now they have a new guy in there. They're in a new conference, a new coach, and this is a team that went to the championship game 2 years in a row. They lost to Duke, then they lost to UConn. They lost to Duke on the last shot of the game. I was at that game in Indianapolis at the Conseco Fieldhouse. There were 70,000 Butler fans. It was a home game for them in Indianapolis, and there was 1,000 Duke fans. And guess what? The inevitable happened. Duke won the national championship. So.
Well, one comment about them. I look at Butler in the same vein I look at Gonzaga. Okay, I mean these are from nowhere. Nobody's even heard of these schools, and what they've done over the last 10, 15 years is they have built national grade programs, and I think they ought to be. In essence, you've got the few, in essence, the very few, the Kentuckys and the Dukes, etc. And then all of a sudden now you've got a few teams coming in who are starting to challenge them, and I think it's great for college basketball.
Right. Well, here you've got the Butler Bulldogs and the Gonzaga Bulldogs. I would like to see a game between those two teams. But you know who else is doing well is Baylor. The Baylor Bears have been playing very well, very, very well. So far, they've beaten Louisville, Michigan State, Xavier, and Iowa State. And I think the Baylor Bears are sort of flying under the radar right now. And I look for them to find their way at least into the Elite Eight as the tournament moves on when March Madness starts. What do you think about that?
I don't know. I think they got a tough conference. The Big 12 is a very tough conference, and I think let's see how they do in their conference. I think either one of the things that's going to happen with them, either they're going to do very well, mm-hmm. or somebody like Oklahoma and these teams are going to beat them. Okay.
Yeah, Oklahoma's always a mystery. I mean, they always win the big game in their conference, mm-hmm. but they kind of fizzle. Well, except for the last year or so, they fizzle in the NCAA tournament.
Right.
So you never really know who you're going to get with Oklahoma. It's kind of like watching the New York Football Giants. You don't really know who's going to show up, but we'll get to football in a moment. Okay. So, and one final thing about the NCAA, I certainly want to give a big shout to the University of Connecticut. They just won their 89th in a row. And this isn't the first time they've done it. Right. Hell, they did it back in 2008. They won 90 in a row. Now that's ridiculous.
And against Maryland, it was a toss-up. It was either like 1 or 2 point favorites.
But it's a W, right. And it's not 1, it's 89. That's crazy. They have a chance to tie their own record in their next game. I can't even imagine that. That's just complete lunacy. It's not even fair for the rest of the women's college basketball world. And there's some great teams out there. And we had on the Saturday morning show on Fox Sports Radio, we had the commissioner of the WMLBA, which is basically the Women's D League for basketball. A lot of her friends. Her name is Janelle Burse. You go to WMLBA.com and you can read about her. She's also a WNBA champion with the Seattle Storm. So a lot of her friends are coaching these other teams against this University of Connecticut team, and they're playing with a loaded gun. It's ridiculous. This is a team that is really, and I mean really, really good. So we'll pick up another topic on the other side. In fact, what we're going to do is we're going to switch over to Major League Baseball in just a couple of minutes. So we'll see you soon.